Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, welcome back to the Baseball Hut, and hopefully you like this video. And hit that subscribe button. Also, I mentioned we got plenty of products here for this weekend. And, of course, please check them out and purchase some, if you would. And we have memberships here, and send me super thanks for great work I do. But I am not a happy Met fan right now. Wasn't happy during the season. I was not happy with the way this team had felt. Watching them, there seemed to be something was off with this group. And now we're starting to see these things popping up, all these stories now. And you knew these things were going to come out. There were rumblings here and there that there was a problem with the leadership in particular. Juan Soto had said during the season that he said that Starling Marte was the Mets captain. And just reading between the the tea leaves and different articles of the last few hours, Francisco Lindor is putting himself in a very precarious position. I want to point something out to Met fans that I want to defend Lindor. Can you imagine David Wright ever showing up a teammate on the field? Do you ever remember David Wright ever showing up a teammate and getting in his face in the dugout? No. None of those things happened when David was here. For you older Met fans, remember Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez ever having any kind of issues? And they were two very different personality types. Do you ever remember Keith Hernandez being cold or chilly to Gary Carter when they brought him in here? No. Now, Lindor's been here for many years now. I've been probably the one person that's been very honest about what I see from him. And the last 2 years, he's played really well. Although those past years, his defense has been really lousy. So I've given him his props. But prior to that, I was one of the number one critics of his. This story about him and McNeil again, and he and Juan Soto, does not paint him in a good light. Now we know what happened 4 years ago with the whole thing with the possum and the raccoon. I guess just sort of there was like a miscommunication on the field. And instead of taking it into the clubhouse or into the tunnel, where the cameras can't see it, it boiled into the dugout. This sort of back and forth, they got in each other's face, and then they tried to cover it up, which I thought was very childish. The way they handled it during that situation. And we know what happened with Lindor when they brought in Javi Baez. This whole nonsense with the thumbs down. I did a lot of videos on that 4 years ago. We talked a lot about that on this channel, very openly, because I've said this plenty of times. As a fan, I'm not going anywhere. I have no control over what goes on in these games, neither do you. And we want to see professionalism and the ability to treat your teammates with respect. Getting in the face of your teammate in the dugout is not showing a teammate respect. Again, David Wright wouldn't have done that. Now, supposedly what happened on June 20th, there seemed to be a play that happened. I think I have an idea where it came from. The internet sleuth, John Boy, pointed out that there was a ground ball that was hit to McNeil, and I guess McNeil kind of bobbled it in his glove. He didn't throw it overhand. He threw it underhand. I guess he was having a tough time getting it out of his glove. That's the best he could do. And they talked after that play was finished, and they didn't get a double play. And I guess there was a home run after that. And I guess McNeil really chastised. Lindor really chastised McNeil for that. This should not have happened again between the two of them. Okay, if there's leadership, then there's communication. And when you have that communication that comes from the top down, you shouldn't have any problems. Okay. Now we know that this team has had issues. Okay. We know the story that came out, I guess, from WFAN, that there was some kind of toxic situation going on in that Met clubhouse. Now, supposedly, Lindor was not part of that. And I'll tell you this, This is really bad. This has made Lindor look really bad because a lot of the media has posted all kinds of articles, reposted articles defending him from a few months ago, a few weeks ago. So I thought that was interesting in and of itself. But anyway, so again, when it comes to Lindor and McNeil, there is no respect there, especially from Lindor to McNeil. We know that he had told McNeil that he was going to buy him a car if he won a batting title. 2022, McNeil won a batting title. It took him 2 years to give him a car. You have a $340 million contract. If you promise that guy a car, get him a car. Why did he have to wait 2 years to get a car? Totally disrespectful. And he didn't get it until last year. So I did that. That says a lot about Lindor. He's a little... Anyway, now we have this situation with Soto. And I thought what was written in here was more telling than people were letting it on. Now, I have an overview from the Bleacher Report because I'm not going to pay to go, I'm not going to go behind, go on the paywall. But Mike Puma, put this article out, and he said this about Lindor and Soto. Soto is a better player than Lindor. And in the first year with the Mets, he was the Mets' best player the last 2-3 months. Lindor wasn't. Soto's game got better as the season went on. He had a great September, and he had an excellent August. He said even so, like I said, the most important games are in August and September, and he certainly showed it. He proved it. But, there's sort of this report that came out. Let me read you a couple of things. According to Puma, clubhouse source indicated that relations between Lindor and Juan Soto were chilly during the 2025 campaign. So isn't that interesting? Again, keep them as didn't treat Gary Carter like that. So Soto should have been treated with a lot more respect. Excuse me. And it tells you why he seemed to be unhappy in the beginning of the year. The source said, according to Puma, Soto is very businesslike, all business, no fluff. This is a very important quote. Let me start this again. Soto is very businesslike, all business, no fluff. He wants to come to the yard, work his tail off, and win games. He's not into fashion or any of that stuff. Lindor is into that. It's just two different personalities. Let me read you this again. Soto's very businesslike, all business, no fluff. He wants to come to the yard, work his tail off, and win games. He's not into fashion or any of that stuff. Lindor is into that. It's just two different personalities. So in other words, Lindor is into fashion and he's not into winning. Isn't that interesting? Now, we know he works hard. Puma also wrote that there were questions over who exactly was leading the team, as Lindor seemed to lose some of his grasp on the clubhouse. Isn't that interesting? I didn't know about that until now. Isn't that interesting? After bringing Soto on the MLB condo, the Mets haven't had a team captain since David Wright 2018. MLB.com's Anthony DeComo reported in March that the Mets had broadly discussed the idea of naming a captain before deciding against the change. Quote, that's not a reflection on Lindor, whom teammates and officials believe will be an excellent organizational steward. It's simply an acknowledgement that the Mets' leadership picture is a nuanced one. DeComo went on to name Soto as well as Nimmo, Alonso, and Alvarez as other leadership figures in the Mets locker room. Lindor said multiple times he would be honored to be named as official captain by the Mets. The Mets should not do that, folks. I think he's blown his shot. If anything, Brandon Nimmo should have been named the captain of this team a few years ago. But now that's over with, because Nimmo got traded. Maybe Nimmo knew that he didn't want to be part of this clubhouse anymore. That's probably a part of this whole thing. But I thought what was interesting was that, like I said, the fact that he's lost the grasp of the clubhouse, that means he wasn't really the leader of this team anyway. And according to Soto, all the players went to Marte. And we saw the effect of Marte being hurt in 2022, how much they missed him in September. So, I mean, this tells you a lot. I mean, I'm very concerned by this because he's going to be here. He's got, 6 more years on his contract? He's still here a long time. And he's not, and you've seen the best of him. He's going to be 33 years old. This is the best we've seen of him. Last year was the best of Lindor. I know he had 30-30 again, or 30, whatever it was, another 30-30 year. But last year was the best we ever saw out of Lindor. And you're going to see fewer and fewer returns as we move on. But again, the Mets should not make him captain. That would be a major mistake now. Okay, because now he has a history here with the Mets of not being a little bit of a, he shows up his teammates. Now I know he had an issue with Bauer in Cleveland. Bauer's a goofball. I don't like want to talk about that, but he has a history there with the Mets of getting in the face of teammates on the field, in the dugout. Okay? And I'll say this again. David Wright would never have done this stuff. We never would have heard any of these stories come out. We heard that one time with Noah Syndergaard, and nobody saw it. It was behind the scenes. He didn't show up, the player. And he was trying to correct the problem that would have been a problem later on. And that actually helped the whole team in a lot of ways. Show you who was in charge of that clubhouse. We know that this team has had leadership issues. I've talked about this for years. I've talked about this as far back doing these videos on the Mets since 2011. And this team has got major issues with the leadership. And it starts with Lindor. All right? Last year he played great. Okay, he deserved to be second in the MVP voting. He deserved it. But when you have players saying, we're playing hard, we don't know what to do, that comes down to leadership. We talked about this a lot. Leadership isn't always about saying the right thing. It's always about, saying the right thing to the press, saying the right thing to teammates. It's also about on the field. Now, the last 2 years, he's done the job on the field and been very clutch. But now it's a different situation to where you're losing grasp of the clubhouse. Some of his grasp in the clubhouse. I'm trying to figure out what that means. It's a problem. And when you have these kinds of collapses, it is a leadership problem because then it is very difficult winning games in the majors. It's very difficult. You have to be very focused. This comment at the beginning, okay, about the comparison between Soto and Lindor says it all. It's about winning. Soto's very businesslike, all business, no fluff. He wants to come to the yard, work his tail off, and win games. He's not into fashion or any of that stuff. Lindor is into that. It's just two different personalities. That means that Lindor has distractions. Between the wife playing the violin the wife playing the violin, bringing the kids out. God bless him. He's a great father. Okay? But the kids aren't on the field. They're not playing the games. They're not in the clubhouse with the other players. Same thing with the wife. So these are, to me, the distractions. Okay? He's distracted. And that is a problem. Sorry. Now hopefully the Mets taking this very seriously because they traded Nimmo and they brought a very serious-minded player in Marcus Semien. Semien is extremely dedicated to winning and playing great and being a great clubhouse guy. Okay? And he's won a World Series, something none of these guys have done. And he's played really well in postseason. The best from Semien is, and I'm quite frankly, if you get the best out of Semien, it's better than the best out of Brandon Nimmo. And I love Nimmo. I know one thing. He's not going to be talking this disrespectfully to Semien, because Semien will get right in his face and tell him to stick his stupid gloves up his ass and everything else, he brings them along in a respectful way. I mean, think about it. He's supposed to break in. He never breaks in a glove, Somebody wrote that online. I know that hadn't really been a big deal in the last few years, but breaking in gloves every game, what a waste of money. And all the different shoes, what a waste. It's a waste. There's too many distractions with this guy. But that's where I feel. That's how I feel. Now, of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut. I don't care about some of the other things that people talk about. I don't care. I don't even watch any other channels. I'm just reading based on, I'll do video based on what I think, what I see, and just reading between the lines. This guy's got a lot of distractions. He's got too much going on that has nothing to do with baseball. We could do a documentary on the MLB network. You know, meet Freddie Freeman, that's for damn sure. I didn't watch that. I don't know if you watched it, folks, but I know they did this big documentary on him a couple weeks ago. I didn't watch it. Couldn't care less, to be honest with you. How terrible he's had in his life. He's making $340 million. Oh, it's horrible, horrible times. Oh, please. It's about winning. If you don't win, you're going to get the dark hut, and that's what you get. Simple as that now. No fooling around now here at the baseball hut when it comes to dealing with these players now. If Mets want to trade him, get him out of here. If he's distracted, send him somewhere where winning's not so important, where he can be more distracted from not winning. He doesn't have to worry about winning. He can be distracted. And we know that he's taken him a long time to adjust being here in New York. It took him 3 years to adjust here. Okay, and a lot had to do with the other leadership that was in that clubhouse. So Iglesias, JD Martinez, Jose Quintana. Those guys were key to the leadership in that clubhouse, not Lindor. That's a problem. You can't have one of your best players not be an effective leader. When you don't have that, you're screwed majorly. Well, let me know what you think about this video. And of course, I will give it to you straight, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. Who would say something about Lindor's wife? And I'll say this. I'm not going to say it. Not going to say it. But anyway, too many distractions. That's the problem with him. Soto's about winning, and he's about doing the work. Lindor's about fashion, changing his shoes and his gloves every damn day. That's distraction. Simple as that. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later. We have a free agent signing. It seems that Ryan Helsley, formerly of the New York Mets and of the St. Louis Cardinals, has signed a 2-year deal with the Baltimore Orioles to be their closer. I feel real bad for the Oriole fans because this guy is one of the many reasons the Mets collapsed. He pitched a lot of games that the Mets had no business losing, and he blew a lot of games late. Now, he's going to be a closer. There's a couple things about him if you don't know. His fastball is very straight, and he has a very difficult time, when I saw him for those 2 months, to get his slider over for a strike. If you can't do that, this nonsense about tipping pitches is a bunch of garbage. But he signed a 2-year deal. If you want to know what's going on in Major League Baseball, please hit the subscribe button for the Baseball Hut 2. The New York Post put a major report out about the New York Mets clubhouse. It seems that Francisco Lindor, the Mets shortstop, and second baseman and infielder Jeff McNeil had some kind of argument on the field in Philadelphia. I've seen some videos of it. I don't understand what the issue was, but nevertheless, this is not the first time they've had problems. As you know, that famous, infamous back and forth they had about 4 years ago. Also, it seems that Soto and Lindor did not get along during the season. It's a very strange quote. They said the people in the clubhouse looked at Soto as he's all businesslike, he's all about winning, and Lindor is about fashion. What? It's a very strange story. I'll have more on this in a full-length video later on today. But this is a issue that needs to be resolved in this clubhouse. We already saw Brandon Nimmo get traded. Jeff McNeil's going to get moved as well. There's a big reason why they brought in Marcus Semien. He's a big-time winning guy. He doesn't accept losing or bad play, and bad attitude. So we're going to keep an eye on this, but I'll have a major video on this for the Baseball Hut later on. So please hit the subscribe button. We'll talk more about this later. Thank you. Here's a major rumor for you. It seems that the New York Mets are talking to the ace, the former ace of the Astros, Framber Valdez, the lefty. But the source of the rumor, he's a shaky, guy, and Hector Gomez. So take that with a grain of salt. We don't know how accurate that is, but supposedly the deal is for 6 years, $200 million. I will believe that when I see it. Because Valdez is 32 years old. I will believe when I see it when it comes to David Stern's signing a pitcher to that length of contract. And that money seems a little bit off considering how much money Dylan Cease got from the Blue Jays. But just wanted to put that out there if you haven't seen it on X. And I want to thank you for coming by. Please, of course, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you later. Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Fight, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut. Welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. I'm talking about free agency here. And one player in particular is Kyle Schwarber. Philadelphia Phillies slugger's been there quite a few years. With the Cubs, the Nationals, the Red Sox. Well, he's a free agent again. Now, this was a free agency that was a successful deal throughout because he hit great. He's a great home run hitter. Keeps up at this pace. He's going to the Hall of Fame. But the Phillies and Schwarber, it seems like people have felt, and I felt this as well, that he's going to resign with the Phillies. But there's a little snag. And what that snag is, who knows? Probably the length of the contract. Because he is up there. He's 33 years old. Some MLB trade rumors. Phillies Kyle Schwarber currently not close to a deal. There's been plenty of mutual interest between the Phillies and Kyle Schwarber, leading to a sense around the league that Schwarber's free agent path will ultimately lead him back to the city of brotherly love. It doesn't appear, however, that a reunion is imminent. As MLB.com's Todd Zalecki wrote earlier this week, two sides are not close to a deal. Zalecki didn't specify that if there has been any standstill in talks, or if there's a sizable gap between the two sides in terms of money or contract length. By that same measure, there's also nothing to indicate that talks couldn't heat up with a single phone call. All in all, the news should be construed as a sign that Schwarber won't eventually return, or that either party is favoring another option. It's only been a little over 3 weeks since the free agents have been allowed to negotiate with other teams, and most of the top names in the market are still testing the waters. I would mention the future Hall of Famer Ryan Helsley had signed with the Baltimore Orioles. Why did they do that? We'll never know. But that is not a sign that you're serious about winning. A couple of the most prominent early signings, Josh Nails to the Mariners, Raisel Iglesias to the Braves, then involved players quickly opted to re-up with their former teams, which perhaps raised hopes among Philadelphia fans that a new deal with Schwarber might also resolve in rapid fashion. A little over 2 years ago, Aaron Nola entered the free agency, but then worked out his 7-year, $172 million deal with the Phillies in just a couple of weeks of the market opening. That's turned out to be not a great deal for the Phillies because obviously he pitched a lot. He's been hurt. As Zalecki simply puts it, there's no reason to rush it for Schwarber's camp at this point, given how much interest the Sluggers generated in the wake of his 56 home run season. The Red Sox, Orioles, and surprisingly the Pirates have all been publicly linked to Schwarber's market thus far. I would be shocked if the Pirates signed him. Plus, the Reds have been mentioned as a speculative contender since they need help hitting, and Schwarber's from the Cincinnati area. The only players entering at age 33 season don't usually command the kind of attention Schwarber is garnering. But then again, Schwarber's career year is just one of 23 seasons, 56-plus home runs in baseball history. The fact that Schwarber is essentially the Phillies' top priority, give or take JT Realmuto, gives the slugger added leverage. He and his agents can likely afford to wait and see what other offers emerge, with the comfort of knowing that the Phillies might well match or top whatever rival offer is put on the table. From the Phillies' perspective, they will likely wait on Schwarber before proceeding with any other major offseason business. Apart from matters that wouldn't be impacted by Schwarber staying or leaving, for example, negotiating with Realmuto, trying to trade Nick Castellanos, or perhaps looking for bullpen help. Dave Dombrowski, forever looking for bullpen help. Can never find it. There's some risk for the Phillies in that if Schwarber signed elsewhere after taking several more weeks, the Phillies could be left behind in their offseason shopping if other free agents have already left the market. That said, rival agents are also aware of the scenario and could advise their clients to wait on their own decisions just in case a Schwarber-less Phillies team suddenly broadens its free agent horizon. But this is the thing. He's a left-handed power hitter. He's a DH pretty much. He'll play a little left field from time to time, a little bit of first. But, his market's not going to be that big, But, he's going to be commanding a lot of money because he's a big home run hitter. He's one of the top 4 home run hitters in the game. So we'll see where he goes. His market is not going to affect the rest of the market. That's for sure. Because he's limited in what he can do. But the things that he does is so great. And he's a winning player. He's a good player. Aside from the home runs, he's a winning player. He's always in places where teams win. That's something you can't, underscore. So, thank you for watching this video. Of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2, and I'll see you later. Hi, everybody. This is Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut 3. And hopefully, like this video and hit that subscribe button. So, we're going to talk about Lane Giffen. Is he with Ole Miss? He's not with Ole Miss. He's going to this place, he's going to that place. But people are apologizing and trying to justify his looking for other jobs. Now, I have no dog in this race. I couldn't care less, but people are interested in it. But here we have from off announcing. Seems like the ESPN analysts have sort of put it out there what they feel about the situation. And here's the headline. ESPN analyst, bizarre Lane Giffen defenses get significant pushback. No SEC team, no SEC school will allow their new coach to coach a rival or departing coach to stay there while the new coach of a rival, that is bizarre if that happens. If that happens, that is strange. Beyond belief. Isn't that the case? Never heard of such a thing. We've heard coaches leaving the day after their team gets eliminated. But boy, to be coaching in one place and then have a new job, Although we do it in business. If you do it in business, any kind of business, you have a job and you give 2 weeks notice and you coach somewhere else or you're an employee somewhere else. Let's walk through a hypothetical situation. Imagine Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambers said that he was mulling playing for another school next season, where he could receive a significant NIL boost. Let's say he announced that he would decide after the Egg Bowl whether to leave his current school with the possibility that he would skip the Rebels games and the college football playoff afterward. I don't think anybody would put up with that, And I don't really care for hypotheticals. You got to go to hypotheticals and your grasping at straws. Can you imagine how apoplectic Nick Saban and Kirk Herbstreit would be on College game day? How furious would they both be that a player decided in the midst of a championship season is already thinking about leaving and might not finish out the year because of it? The scorched earth that those two ESPN college football analysts would go in the wake over the quarterback's selfish, greedy, egocentric, self-serving decision would be the stuff of legend. Now, a quarterback doing something like that is not a one-to-one with a head coach making a similar decision. We're not even sure it's actually possible. But how Saban, Herbstreit, and the other ESPN analysts have cleared the path for Lane Giffen to do what I described above has essentially been met with severe criticism and pushback from many in the college football media ecosystem. We have to go back to last weekend to when Saban set the tone for this discussion by absolving Giffen of any responsibility if he decides to leave Ole Miss before the CFP, saying that the situation was not a Lane Giffen conundrum but a college football conundrum. Towards the end of Friday's Egg Bowl, as Giffen's Rebels wrapped up their 11th win of the season, ABC announced that Dave Posh questioned AD Keith Carter for pushing his head coach to make a decision now. Posh said by forcing the decision to be announced, quote, "You wonder if that pushes Lane Giffen in another direction." Once again, absolving Giffen of responsibility. Then came Booger McFarland, who sounded, what? What's his name? Booger? Ugh. What's his real name? Ugh. Who said on ABC Friday night that if Giffen decides to leave Ole Miss for rival LSU, he should still be allowed to coach the Rebels in the CFP, putting the onus on Ole Miss to do the right thing. Quote, "I think it would be a travesty that if Lane does decide to leave, that he's not allowed to finish the job. I think the kids would want him to," said McFarland. "I think if you're Ole Miss, why would you not? The only reason I can think of is because of personal feeling." Well, I think you'd be pissed that the guy's leaving and he hasn't finished the job. Finally, on Saturday's College Game Day, Herbstreit reiterated McFarland's take that even if he leaves to become the head coach at a rival school, Giffen deserves to be allowed to continue coaching Ole Miss for the rest of their postseason run. Quote, I think Ole Miss has to accept that and look at this as a magical thing, said Herbstreit. You've never done what you're doing right now. Let Lane Giffen, if he leaves, and these players finish the run this year. It should be noted in this article that not everyone at ESPN has been clearing the path for Giffen. Paul Feinbaum has been a vocal critic of the potential move. Christopher Mad Dog Russo has called out Giffen's lack of loyalty. And I did a video on Mad Dog. I would mention Mad Dog was very quick to leave WFAN when he had the chance. And he was always threatening to quit WFAN when he worked with Mike Francesa. So his attitude's a little shaky. And Pat McAfee has pleaded with Giffen to stay at Ole Miss in contrast to his fellow game day analysts. We don't know if there is any kind of concerted effort to give Lane Giffen a PR boost as he's about to potentially abandon his team in the midst of a championship race. But it does seem strange to see so much water carrying for him over the situation. Situation, mind you, he could have eliminated at any point by just saying, I'm sticking with my guys and waiting until next time to consider another coaching gig. This narrative push has been not gone unnoticed by others in the college football media world. Washington Post columnist and Phantom Island podcaster Stephen Godfrey has been amongst the most vocal critics, calling out what he perceives as a coordinated effort manufactured by CAA and filtered through ESPN. You know, ESPN is struggling as a company. That's why they went into business in a partnership with the NFL, owned by Disney. Disney is struggling, believe it or not. Godfrey voiced a similar complaint last week when Saban mounted his Giffen defense. He's far from the only CFB media mainstay to co-opt the absurdity of these arguments. Giffen's announcement is expected to come any minute now. We'll have a keen eye on not only what he does, but how the decision is discussed and who receives the blame. As it were, so far it seems like certain parties are doing everything they can to make it sure it's not Lane Giffen. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with access. I think these guys at ESPN don't want to lose his access because if he goes to another big program, they don't want to be critical of him and then lose access. This is all about access. This is all access by by the big media. It's also access by the little media and the podcasters and the YouTubers. They don't want to be critical of this guy because they don't want to lose access to him if he decides to go somewhere else or stays at Ole Miss. And he seems to be a bit of a prickly pear when it comes to confronting people. So he'll confront reporters. We saw that after the game the other day. So he's not afraid, or before the game, whatever it was. So he's not afraid to get in your face. So they know that his reputation behind the scenes. And like I said, this is all about access. They don't want to lose that and piss the guy off, and then he leaves or stays, and they've been critical of him. So they're kind of like being nice to him, knowing that they could lose a lot. The show could lose a lot. ESPN could lose a lot. So that's why they're not being too critical. There's some people being critical of him. But for the most part on the panel, they haven't really done that. And I think that kind of explains it. Again, it's all about access. Most of the media does not attack the players. They don't attack the broadcast. They don't attack management. They sort of parse their words, and that goes throughout every sport because they don't want to lose access to it. They don't want to lose, being able to go into the locker rooms, being able to go in the clubhouses, and being able to do what they think is their job. But you let me know what you think about this video. And of course, this is the Baseball Hut 3. We talk about the media here, which I think is very interesting to talk about. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut 3. I hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So it seems that I'm going to put the cards down on the table. I'm not a big fan of the sideline reporter, and it doesn't matter if it's male or female or whatever in between. I I think they are pretty much the most useless part of the broadcast. And it doesn't matter what sport it's in. I think it's pretty useless, to be honest with you. I also think that in certain sports, it's unnecessary. Baseball, certainly, it's not necessary, to be honest with you. Maybe you do for comedic relief, but it's really just a waste of a job, waste of money. For over 100, almost 100 years, we didn't need the sideline reporter. Now, for whatever reason, we need the sideline reporter. I don't need it. But one of the more famous ones is Erin Andrews. Works for, I guess, short for all different kinds of companies and different, And I, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the whole sideline reporter, but she complained this week. I mean, she's talked about this week that she misses a lot of holidays, because of her job. She loves the job. Sounds like she loves the job, but she's always missing holidays. Okay. You want to be a strong, independent woman, you're gonna lose out on stuff. But sort of I guess a tongue-in-cheek article from Outkick, and we'll read it and go through it, and hopefully you like this video. Headline: "You're all just jealous of Erin Andrews' success," written by Bobby Brubeck. There's a growing resentment toward attractive blonde women in America. I would mention, Erin Andrews, in my opinion, is not a blonde. Okay, she's got brown hair. She's not a blonde. Erin Andrews is trending this week after often announcing summarized a discussion about the realities of life as a sports reporter. Erin Andrews opens up on career sacrifices. "I miss all holidays," the headline reads. The post has drawn nearly 18 million views on X, making it one of the platform's most viral posts of the week. Whereas click-through data indicates fewer than half of those who view the post actually open the link. Okay? Instead, many online voices, including disgruntled former sports anchor Trey Wingle, framed her remarks as a complaint. Oh, it is a complaint. Quote, "That's literally what they pay you for," Wingo wrote. Erin said it herself once. "They pay you for the travel and the sacrifice because doing the games is the fun part." Boo-hoo, amazing. Thinking of many working and others serving our country, making great money and talented, but the pity party isn't happening here, adds sports talk show host Mike North. Viral replies called Andrews ungrateful, mocking her for lamenting missed holidays or earning millions of dollars a year. Woman who gets paid 7 figures per year, wow. With 340 days off per year, wow. Complains about not getting holidays off. I mean, she's been, she's done like bikini spreads. She's done all kinds of, pictures. She's taken all kinds of pictures for all these different magazines, all these different things, and she's got the nerve to complain. Even the ever cloud-chasing Dove Kleiman piled on. Oh boy, Fox sideline reporter Erin Andrews is under heavy fire for saying she misses the holidays due to her work. Of course, Andrews isn't under heavy fire for anything more than quill culture and social media ignorance. The narrative portrays her as self-pitying for having to work during the holidays. In reality, she's reflecting on the lifestyle of sports reporters, echoing a warning she once received from a college professor during her podcast with Carissa Thompson. This is what one of my first professors said. "You don't want to make $40,000 in your first job, get out. If you don't want to be told you need a nose job, get out. If you don't want to be divorced, get out. If you don't want to work holidays, get out." Andrews added that while her own advice to young reporters isn't as harsh, there's truth to what her professor said. Quote, "You gotta love what you do because I miss all holidays. I didn't get married until I was in my 40s. Not that that will be your path, but I live out of a suitcase. I miss weddings. I miss events, to love it enough to get you to the fact that you won't be home for Thanksgiving or that Christmas gets cut short." That's it. That's all she said. And she's right. Sports reporters work during games. Games of play with other people are off, such as nights, weekends, and holidays. That might seem like a simple trade-off for a dream job, but some people genuinely prefer a routine schedule Andrews will simply acknowledge that the profession can take a personal toll. Now, she doesn't have any children. How does she have like a real personal, a lot of happiness in her life? I always got the feeling that she wasn't a happy person. That's always my take on her. ESPN's Alyssa Lang shared her own experience. I once dated a guy who, after about a month, said, "I don't know if I can be with someone who can't do things on Saturday," so we broke up. It is what it is. I know some women that are very attractive that are dumb enough to give up their jobs for men. That's stupidity on the other direction. Louisiana First News reporter Chessa Boucher added, "I dated a guy who liked the idea of dating a sports reporter, though I had to work every weekend. He got tired of it because I couldn't come to his travel softball tournament." Wow. He's dope. Sounds like Erin Andrews' professor had a point. We also roll our eyes at people who say Andrews has no right to discuss the difficulties of the job because she's rich and famous. Well, she is. Two things can be true at once. Andrews probably loves her job, and she probably also liked to be home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Likewise, a ditch digger might scoff at an accountant who complains about stress. Does that mean accountants shouldn't warn aspiring students about the challenge of tax season? Well, here's the thing. Like I said, it's the most useless role in the broadcast. Okay, this is not a job that is really that important. Now, she's at the top of this totem pole. Okay, if you look at it, aside from her being married, I would guess to a man, does she have any children? No. She doesn't. She just doesn't have it. And I would mention also, she has admitted, openly, that she makes up a lot of the stuff that is said on the sideline. She was on a podcast about a year ago or so, and she and this other reporter that do the sideline reporting for the NFL, they admit that they make up a lot of stuff. They report a lot of stuff that isn't true. They make it up because they say sometimes they can't get any the kind of access they want from the coach. He's not giving them anything, and they just make it up. That's not what a reporter is there for. What's the point of having that reporter there? If all they're going to do is make it up, make things up. Make up an injury, make up what the coach said. Just ridiculous. But like I said, I don't understand the point of having the sideline reporter. Let me read the last part of this. In a culture fixated on identity, we have been conditioned to view the success of blonde women as purely superficial. However, that doesn't apply to Erin Andrews. She's not blonde. Sorry, she's not blonde. Okay? She's not blonde. Sorry. She's a lot of things, but she is not blonde at all. She's brunette. She's got brown hair. She doesn't have blonde hair. She's got highlights in it. And, she could have had a great life for herself, aside from the money that she's made. Aside from the money that she's made, she's got no children. She's got no legacy. That's a value, Hey, whatever. She's a strong, independent woman. That's all that matters. This is a woman that doesn't have memories that are good memories. She has got memories of being on the sideline, being at these big events. But aside from that, what does she have? I guess the money, right? The money, I guess. But thank you for watching this video. And of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut 3. See you later. Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. Hopefully you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. Again, talk about this whole situation, this drama surrounding Francisco Lindor. I think this is kind of important to talk about because this is, the article was, the weird thing about the article was that it tried to make it seem that all this stuff is surrounding the player, but not getting in deeper than given the history of the player, that the years that he's been with the Mets. Been here 5 years. The Mets haven't won anything. And he's got another 5-6 years on the contract, which is just ridiculous. But I want to talk about it again because I got a lot of comments off the last video, and some of them were ridiculous, calling him names and all this other stuff. And I'm making up stuff about Soto, but I wanted to talk about this because I think this is very important. Because we talked about the leadership and the lack of leadership on this team. It kind of started in 2022, and we saw it when they had to collapse the last month. And really, it was just a slowdown to where they played 500 baseball, and then they lost all those games against the Braves. And then they played poorly against the Padres. A real lack of sort of urgency from certain players. It sort of, when you have players that are making a lot of money, right off the bat, you expect certain things from them. Certain accountability, certain standard. And when the standard is less than what it should be, it's noticeable. Now, Lindor's been here since 2021. I was not enamored with the trade because he was a player that had been on a small market. Indians at the time do not make mistakes with players. You notice Jose Ramirez, who was a third baseman there, next to him, has continued to be a great player. He's a great leader. Has more of a gregarious personality. Lindor is not. He smiles a lot, but he's not the sort of. It's hard to describe his personality, just from afar. But you saw right away that his inner workings did not go well with being in New York. Now, I credit the Mets to make a big deal, the Steve Cohen era, to start this ball rolling with the big trade. But the problem was at the time, and I said at the time, that the Mets were too quick to sign him, that they should have let him have his ability to adjust. If it didn't work out, you could have moved on. The Mets did not give up a lot in that trade. I was not big on Ahmed Rosario. Jimenez has been a serviceable major leaguer. And the two pitchers they gave him in that deal, they never made it to the majors. There were quite a few shortstops that were going to be free agents in that offseason. One being Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, who eventually became an everyday second baseman with the Rangers. And I would mention him just to mention him is Javi Baez. Baez turned out to be a disaster here too because he couldn't handle being in New York. But the Mets were very quick to sign Lindor to that massive contract, which was ridiculous because they were trying to compete with the Padres because the Padres had just signed Fernando Tatis Jr. And that's turned out to be not a good contract as well because he's had his issues, obviously. But I was not for it because I didn't think personality-wise he could handle it here. Now, that season, the Mets did not have they were playing okay. They had great immortal pitching from Jacob deGrom. Then deGrom got hurt. Right before the All-Star break, and right after the All-Star break, Lindor got hurt. He was out for 6 weeks. And then meanwhile, they made that big trade for Baez. Baez comes in here, and then eventually Lindor comes back. And then after just a couple of weeks playing together, and I guess being booed, Lindor and Baez started doing the thumbs down. Now, I had a shit fit on a live stream after the game. When I saw this, and they talked about it after the game, despicable behavior by the players. And all the players other than Lindor have been taken out of here. They got taken out of here after the season. Every player that got involved with the whole thumbs down nonsense, including Kevin Pillar and a few other guys, all out of here except for Lindor. It's despicable behavior by players. Then in 22, the Mets brought in some leadership with Starling Marte, Mark Canha, Eduardo Escobar. It kind of tempered things. But then as we got later into the season, into September, Lindor's sort of, was basically gone. And the leadership of this team was gone. It was like, you need your best players to play their best when you need them to. And he didn't do that. 2023. We know the Mets had issues with the pitching coming into the season because they lost Diaz for the whole season. And Scherzer, I don't know what the hell was going on with Scherzer, and Verlander was hurt. So the Mets, right off the bat, had all kinds of issues. Eventually, they had to move everybody out of here. But they had a June of hell. He was part of that team. And you kind of got the sense, and they talked about it a lot this year, They didn't know how to get out of it. Well, good leadership helps you get out of it. Being able to make big plays helps you get out of it. Being able to do the right thing and being able to sort of say the right thing and also do the right thing on the field. I've talked a lot about leadership over the last few years. It's not just about saying the right thing, but also being able to come through in the clutch. Now, he's been able to do that the last 2 years with the Mets. He's kind of broken through. But a couple other things. In early 2021, he got into this scuffle with Jeff McNeil, and he grabbed McNeil by the throat in the dugout in between innings. You can't have that. Leaders do not do that. Leadership doesn't do that. Now, the media has pushed Lindor's the captain. Lindor is this and Lindor is that. I even sort of told myself, okay, he's a leader. But you know what? He's not a leader. I also mentioned David Wright. David Wright, when he confronted Noah Syndergaard, he did it in front of the media because Noah was eating in front of the media. So David had to sort of do it in front of them. He said in that documentary, I guess the right way, he said that he would not have confronted Noah if the media wasn't there. He wouldn't have made a big deal out of it. But because he did it in front of the media, eating in front of the media, David had to address it. Okay? He said it wasn't a big deal to him, but because he did it in front of them, that's how you handle things. Okay? Now, if there were any problems with any players in the past, and there were plenty of players with the Mets during the time that David was here, there were big problems. Jordani Valdespin, if you remember him, he was a problem. Disrespected everybody. You didn't hear much about any kind of anybody confronting him, but I guarantee you David did. Okay? Probably let it be known that he didn't want him on the team. But leadership is not just about doing it on the field, but also there's a problem, you handle it. That's why Keith Hernandez is probably the greatest leader in the history of the Mets, because you didn't really hear any kind of back and forth with the players from really during those championship years. We never heard anything. The only time that we started seeing cracks is when Keith wasn't on the field and he was hurt and he wasn't the player that he once was. That's when you started to see the cracks. But before that, you didn't see those cracks because Keith always took care of any problems. Okay, and he never, ever confronted a player in a dugout because they might have missed a play or they didn't throw the ball hard enough or whatever. Jeff McNeil is a player, just to use him as an example. He's a 2-time All-Star. He won a batting title. You show him respect. You show all your teammates with respect. Now, if he said something to him on the field and it got nasty, that's not right. If it happened this past June. But we already seen that he's willing to cross the line with McNeil. He's got no respect for McNeil. So just keep that in mind. And by the way, McNeil had been an All-Star in 2019 before Lindor had gotten here. Okay. Now, this thing with Soto, somebody wrote to me earlier saying that Soto was the reason the Mets didn't play well. It's all his fault. He played great in August and September. Okay? They said, well, the Yankees were miserable. The Yankees went to the World Series last year. Okay? And he had the biggest hit the Yankees have had in 20 years. 15 years or whatever it was to get to the World Series. Stop making excuses for Lindor, folks. Okay? He's been here a long time now. Okay? We've seen this act before. He's got too much going on. And I would mention this. The documentary. When did they film that documentary? This season. So in between the documentary, when the Mets were struggling, he's recording all this nonsense, all this monkey crap, all this bullshit for the MLB network. Meanwhile, the team is struggling down the stretch. They have zero leadership coming out of him. You have him confronting your second baseman again. Then you're hearing about Soto and his relationship as being chilly. Maybe that was the reason why Soto didn't look all too happy the first couple of months. Because Lindor probably didn't welcome him the way he should have. Then I saw this article, I guess this former reporter, I guess, the Daily News, had reposted an article that she wrote about the whole relationship between him and Lindor. Obviously, Lindor's side of things is pushing out the narrative that there was no problem. I'm sorry. Okay? I don't believe it. Because Lindor has now shown himself now in a couple instances of having issues with players, and it gets out. We know the issue with him and Bauer. Now, I would mention about Bauer, he's an effing goofball. Okay? But we knew about that from the past. Okay? So, where do we go from here? Now, that's the problem. I think one of the things the Mets recognize is they need to get a stronger personality into that clubhouse. Because Lindor he's just not a leader, and he's not a captain. The media has been pushing him and pushing him and pushing him in our faces to be the captain of this team. He couldn't captain a rubber ducky boat, let alone a baseball team, okay, at this rate. He's not captain material, okay, at all. He's just not. David Wright was, Keith was, Gary Carter was, and John Franco was. This guy isn't. Simple as that. The fact that Marcus Semien is here tells you how they look at with the leadership issue in that clubhouse. Semien was looked upon as the captain of the Rangers in Texas. They put out a tweet saying, "Thank you, Cap." Why would you call him Cap? Because he was the leader of the Texas Rangers. They looked at him as their leader. He's got strong leadership skills, strong personality, and that's what this team needs. And he's an everyday player, and that you need that. He's an older player. We'll see how he performs. But this thing with Lindor is a big problem, major problem, in my opinion. Now we got a week until the winter meetings. I expect quite a few moves this week, not only with the Mets, but with the Major League Baseball. It's been pretty quiet other than the Nimmo deal. But we're going to see what the Mets do. Mets need pitching, we know that. There's that Framber Valdez rumor going around. I don't know how much I believe that. But the Mets have a lot of work to do. And they're a little behind because they lost a lot of production in that outfield trading Nimmo. And now I would mention about Nimmo, I love the guy, but he wasn't an all-star. Okay, he's a good player. He wasn't an all-star player. He's a level below that, which is not bad. But he wasn't an all-star. Marcus Semien's best is being an all-star, being a leader, being a third in the MVP voting 3 times. So I know what I'm getting at of Semien. It's all a matter of does he have much left? That's the question. But this is a real problem, and I'm very concerned by it. As you can tell, I'm doing another video on this. I was never really a big fan of the trade. I'm not a big fan of the player because of the fact that he's a little soft. We've seen how soft he is, and you've seen how soft this team is. You get your toughness from your leader. Okay, the 86 Mets were tough because they had strong leaders. Tough leaders like Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez, Ray Knight, David Wright. This team doesn't have it because they have a weak leader at the top. The guy they're pushing out in front of us, telling us he's the captain. He ain't no captain again. He can't captain a rubber ducky. A little rubber ducky. Well, thank you for watching this video. And of course, this is the dark HUD. And I'm tired of pulling punches. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of this collapsing. I'm tired of this nonsense. Get this shit ready and get it going. Enough is enough. Time to be professionals. Time to man up. And that's it. And that's my message really to the New York Mets. Man up. Because it ain't going to get prettier. This is going to be nasty in 2023. When I was doing videos going after the club. I didn't like the way they played last year overall. I didn't like the way they conducted themselves in September, where they were confused about what the hell was going on. That shit is over with. Get your shit together, or I'm going to be bitching and moaning. And I'm not one of these people that gets all crazy about social media. You know, I know the players watch. I know the organization watches. Just because I get 6,000 subscribers doesn't mean that I don't have influence. I'm tired of this nonsense. I want to win and win now. Enough is enough. I'm no spring chicken. And I would mention a whole generation, 2 generations of Mets fans have not seen the Mets win World Series. Next year's going to be 40 years. 2 generations have not watched the Mets win World Series. Think about that for a second. Think that's fair? No. Enough is enough. Get your shit together. Start putting a winning team together. And if things don't work out, you get rid of the player. When the door doesn't work out, get him the fuck out of here. Simple as that. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. And, of course, please subscribe to The Baseball Hut, the best Mets fans channel on YouTube or on the internet that you could possibly follow. Don't listen to all these other goofballs like that Bugs Bunny guy, that Potato, and that 2-foot twerp in Philadelphia or whatever the hell he's from. Hi everybody, this is The Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, The Hut, and welcome back to The Baseball Hut 2. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So we're going to go through the Major League Baseball free agents and trade candidates the week before the MLB went to meetings. So we'll start on Sunday. And we're going to do all the players that I possibly find that are rumored to be traded, rumored to go this place, go to that place. And you need to hit that subscribe button. We'll also have an AI. AI is going to predict. It's a little, maybe outdated with the AI, but we got AI predicting where players are going to go. We're going to go through this. I'm going to start at the top. Now, last year, the top player was Juan Soto. This year, the top player is Kyle Tucker. Kind of a big drop off from last year. But I will say this. The starting pitching is much deeper than it was last year. Starting pitching is a little bit deeper. Quite a few good pitchers at the top of the market that are going to go different places that are free agents, and one's already gone. So let's start with Kyle Tucker. We got the Cubs, the Yankees, the Mets. The Mets are in on him because of what they did with trading Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien. Seattle, the Dodgers, San Francisco, Phillies, and Baltimore. AI said that he was going to the Blue Jays. Keep an eye on the Dodgers with him, my opinion. But AI is saying the Jays. Pete Alonso, where's Pete going to go? The Mets, San Francisco, the Phillies, Boston, the Cubs, Cincinnati, Baltimore. AI is saying Boston. I think it's 50-50 that he returns to the New York Mets. Edwin Diaz, we've heard the Mets, Baltimore, the Yankees, Dodgers, Angels, Blue Jays, and San Francisco. AI is saying the Mets now. Dylan Cease signed a big, massive contract with the Blue Jays. Zach Gallen, we've heard the Mets, Houston, Arizona, the Angels, San Francisco. Now, all these teams are written down. 99% of the names of the teams are rumored on the internet, and I replaced a couple of teams here or there along the way. And Zach Gallen will go to the Yankees according to AI. 5 years, $120 million. Framber Valdez. The Mets, the Yankees, Seattle, the Dodgers, Houston, Toronto, St. Louis, the Cubs, San Francisco, Baltimore, Boston. Wait. And they're saying the Mets now. Hector Gomez is saying the Mets, but AI is saying the Cubs. Both deals are for 6 years, I think. Bo Bichette, where's he going to go? It's funny, you should ask. That's, which I don't think is going to happen now with the Semien here. The Dodgers, Toronto, Atlanta, Detroit. He's going to re-sign with the Jays for 8 years, $208 million. That's going to AI. Cody Bellinger. That's changed a little bit. Early on, it's the Mets. But we got the Mets, Detroit, Yankees, Texas, Toronto, Phillies, Cincinnati, Cleveland. The Yankees at 6 years, $168 million. The Mets will get one of these big outfields because they want to get more defensively talented instead of the defensively challenged they were. They want to be more better on defense. So Tucker and Bellinger are two players that can help them. Bellinger in particular is a very good defensive player. Ranger Suarez. Toronto, San Francisco, the Phillies, the Mets, the Cubs. They're saying the Mets 5 years. This is what AI is saying, 5 years, $130 million. Kyle Schwarber. We got some new teams in on him. We got the Mets, the Phillies, Yankees, Cubs, Detroit, Texas, Cincinnati, Boston, and the Pirates. I believe that when I say it. Right now, the Phillies seem to be a little shaky right now. I think they're kind of squabbling over the length of the contract. But I believe he'll go back to the Phillies. Munetaka Murakami. It's been posted. Teams have a chance to talk to him. And they have a certain number of days to talk to him. If not, he goes back to Japan. But he's going to get signed by somebody. But we got the Mets, the Yankees, Dodgers, Philly, Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, and the Angels. AI saying Seattle 10 years. $225 million. Crazy. Jeff McNeil, in all likelihood, is going to get traded. Major problems in the Met clubhouse, as you know. And he's going to get traded. We've heard Seattle in particular, which I've been saying myself. Minnesota, the Angels, Arizona, Houston, Atlanta, Chicago, San Francisco, Detroit, Yankees, San Diego, Toronto, Pittsburgh, and the A's. He has a lot of value. He's been a batting champion, plays all over the place, very good defensive player. When the AI is going to the Jays, I think he's going to the Mariners. I felt that way for a long time. Brandon Nimmo traded to the Rangers. So in a shocking trade a week ago. David Peterson, I don't think he's going to get moved, but there are teams that would be interested in him. Detroit, Boston might not be so much. Baltimore, Houston, Philadelphia, Seattle, Milwaukee, Toronto, the Cubs, San Diego. He would go in a trade for Tariq Skubal, which would be a massive deal for the Mets. We're going to have activity this week, I believe. Like I said, I think some players are going to get traded. Some players are going to sign. We've had a couple of signings here and there. Sandy Alcantara, we've heard the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, Seattle, Cubs, Boston, Toronto, Houston, Baltimore, Detroit, being in on a deal with him. We'll see. According to AI, he's going to get traded to the Cubs. Joe Ryan, I think this is going to change. Because Boston made the Sonny Gray deal. But we heard the Mets, Boston, the Cubs, San Francisco, the Angels, the Yankees, Toronto, and Detroit. They're saying Boston. The same thing for Logan Gilbert. He's got the Mets, Boston, Cubs, Phillies, Baltimore, San Francisco, Angels, Detroit, and Toronto. I've heard Boston, but I don't think that's going to happen now. Merrill Kelly's going to re-sign with the Diamondbacks. Chris Bassett's going to re-sign with the Blue Jays for 2 years. Alex Bregman's going to re-sign with the Boston Red Sox. We'll see. 6 years, $192 million. Michael Conforto is going to stay on the West Coast, according to AI. Lucas Giolito, I've heard, is going to AI saying he's going to sign the Yankees. Trent Grisham re-signed with the Yankees. He took the qualifying offer. Big mistake by the Yankees. They should have just not given him the qualifying offer and let him walk. They could have done a lot better. Had done a better job. He can't hit. Even though he hit 34 home runs, that was a career year. Michael King, I've heard Toronto, San Diego, the Mets, the Yankees, Boston. I'll scratch him off with Boston. Baltimore, Detroit, and Houston. Houston for 3 years, $63 million according to AI. Nick Martinez is going to resign with the Reds. Emilio Pagan is going to resign with the Reds. Jorge Polanco resign with the Mariners. JT Realmuto resigning with Philly. I've heard Pittsburgh in on him. That's a new team. Tariq Skubal. The Mets, the Dodgers, Boston, I would think. Even though they made the trade, Sonny Gray trade. Yankees, Cubs, and Giants. The Tigers are going to hold him. We'll see. They're going to have a lot of offers for him. The Mets are going to be pushing hard to get him. Robert Suarez. We've heard the Braves, the Dodgers, Baltimore. I've heard the Mets heavily in on him. The Yankees, Toronto, San Diego, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Houston. AI saying the Dodgers, 4 years, $64 million. He's a good closer. But he hasn't pitched in a big market. That's a big concern. Eugenio Suarez, he's going to sign with the Angels, 2 years, $44 million. Josh Naylor set the first baseman market. He re-signed with the Mariners for 5 years, $85 million or $90 million, whatever it was. I think it was $90 million. And AI got that right. Luis Ariz, we've heard the Angels. AI is saying that he's going to sign with the Angels, 2 years, $30 million. Brandon Woodruff, AI got that wrong, said that he was going to sign with the Mets. He took the qualifying offer from the Brewers. Let's see here. Clay Holmes, keep an eye on him. The A's, Boston, Arizona, Miami, Baltimore. He has a lot of value because he can close games, he can start. He's got a lot of value. He's a very good pitcher. Freddie Peralta, AI saying he's staying with Baltimore. Shane Bieber resigned with the Cubs. I think he resigned. No, he did not take the qualifying offer, excuse me. Devin Williams. The Blue Jays, Atlanta, Detroit, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Boston Red Sox. Probably should cross them off because they got Chapman. San Francisco. AI saying he's going to the Dodgers. I think there's a more than likely chance he could sign with the Mets. Jack Flaherty stay with the Tigers. Gleyber Torres stay with the Tigers, took a qualifying offer. Ryan Helsley, the Immortal, still tipping his pitches. The Baltimore Orioles, he signed a 2-year deal. AI said he was going to the Tigers. Luke Weaver resigned with the Yankees. Kazuma Okamoto. The Cubs, the Mets, Yankees, Padres, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Detroit, Angels. AI saying he's going to sign with the Mets. 4 years, $64 million. Hunter Green. He's not going to get traded. He's going to stay with the Reds. Mackenzie Gore, number one starter with the Nationals. The Mets, Toronto, Milwaukee, Boston, the Cubs. Possibly the Jays. I have not checked. Gotten a recent update from AI. Brendan Donovan. Cleveland, the Yankees, the Dodgers, Toronto, San Francisco. There's going to be plenty of teams on him. Probably half the Major League Baseball. So AI saying Cleveland, but I don't know. Mitch Keller is going to get traded. His name's been mentioned. I believe that when I see it. His name's been out there for years. They're saying Boston, but I don't think that's going to happen now. They should cross him off with the Red Sox. Sonny Gray's better than him. They didn't give up much for Sonny Gray. Pablo Lopez staying with the Twins. Pete Fairbanks, New York Mets have talked to him. Miami talked to him. The Cubs, Toronto, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and Baltimore. They're saying the Dodgers are going to sign him. We'll see. Brendan Lowe, Pirates, Mets, Dodgers, San Francisco, Seattle. The Pirates are going to sign him. Jarren Duran, he's been attached to the Padres for a long time. Wilyer Abreu for the Royals. Taylor Ward got traded to the Orioles in a very strange trade for Grayson Rodriguez. Joe Adell, I've heard Boston, Philadelphia, Kansas City, the Cubs, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. He's going to get traded to the Phillies. Brady Singer going to get traded to the Diamondbacks. Adolis Garcia, non-tendered a contract. AI is saying either KC, the Kansas City Royals, or Pittsburgh. Seems like the Pirates are looking to sign some free agents. I believe that when I see it. Jonah Heim's on the market. I don't know what his market is right now. Alec Bohm could be moved. Randy Arozarena could get moved. C.J. Abrams could get moved. Jake Burgers might get moved. Mark Vientos, Boston, Chicago, Minnesota, Seattle, Detroit. The Mets should move him because he can't play the field, and he's sort of inconsistent offensively. Luis Angel Acuna is probably going to get moved with the trade of Simeon. He's played really well in the winter ball. Wilson Contreras. Wilson! I'll put the Mets here just for this because just in case Lance doesn't resign. He's pretty good at first, they say. And Boston. Luis Severino. Boston, the Mets, the Yankees. Others going to sign the trade to the Mets. The Cubs, Angels, Houston, Arizona. AI saying the Mets and the Yankees. Tatsuya Amai for the Cubs, the Dodgers, Mets, San Diego, Boston. A lot of teams will be on him. Shota Amanaga. He resigned with the Cubs. Brad Keller, Hai-Sung Kim, Ryan O'Hearn, Harrison Bader, San Francisco, Kansas City, Cleveland, the Angels. Put the Mets down, even though they re-signed Tyrone Taylor. Rocio Iglesias, the Chief Braves. The Braves re-signed him. Here's some players available. Zach Littell, Justin Verlander, Kyle Finnegan, Tyler Rogers, must stay away from him. Ketel Marte, stay away from him. Let the buyer beware. Fernando Tatis Jr.'s name's been mentioned. Christian Walker, I don't know what value he has. Edward Cabrera, Spencer Jones, Kodai Senga. He's going to get traded. He doesn't want to get traded, but St. Louis, the Angels, Baltimore, Atlanta, San Francisco, the Cubs, Texas, and Toronto. Mets going to trade to the Angels for Joe Adell and Jose Soriano. Nick Pivetta, Yo Darvish, Wandy Peralta, Yuki Matsui, These are all players of the Padres that could get moved because they're going to get sold. Kona Takahashi, another Japanese player. Joey Lucchesi was non-tendered. Jose Castillo, Max Kranick, Danny Young, Colin Holderman, Christopher Morel, Nathan Lowell, I said him earlier, Chris Bubick, Cole Reagans, Seth Lugo could be moved. I wouldn't mind the Mets bringing it back. Michael Wacha, and put him in the rotation. Lars Nootbaar and Nolan Arenado. Expect the Cardinals to be very active over the next few weeks. They've already been active. They made the deal with the Red Sox. Expect a lot of these players with the Cardinals to get moved. So this is an updated version. Some players have moved a little bit. We're going to have some more movement over the next, well, really 10, 12 days. Next 12 days, we're going to get a lot of movement. So thank you for watching this video. And, of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2. I'll see you later. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Host the Hut. Welcome back to the Baseball Hut 3. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So we're talking about Lane Giffen left Ole Miss and total complete disaster. Total cluster F. He's going to LSU. Boy, you talk about burning bridges, boy. You never see anybody doing this before. This is just one of the crazy stories. And the media is all taking sides, One says it's great. It's just the most bizarre thing we've seen ever in sports. I've never seen anything like this. But I need you to hit the subscribe button. You want craziness from the media. What their reactions is, you want to hit that subscribe button. So here we have 2 articles from Awful Announced. They cover all this stuff. They cover the sort of the sports media angle. First article, sports media torches Lane Giffen's statement announcing LSU move. Giffen tried to play the victim on his way to a $90 million payday at LSU. So Awful Announcing right off the bat is telling you what they think. Lane Giffen's goodbye to Ole Miss was a mess from start to finish. Now former Rebels coach announced Sunday he was leaving for LSU 2 days after Ole Miss beat Mississippi State 38-19 to clinch a spot in the college football playoff for the first time in program history. Giffen told the media at the Friday's Egg Bowl that he had a lot of praying to do about his future, which everyone understood meant he was deciding between staying at Ole Miss or taking the LSU job. He took it for the money, folks. Did it for the money. You can do it for the money, do it for the money. By Sunday afternoon, he'd made his decision. The statement Giffen put out, let me read you this statement, blamed Ole Miss athletic director Keith Carter for not letting him coach the Rebels through the playoff. He wrote that he wanted to finish the season with guardrails in place to protect the program and any areas of concern, but Carter denied his request, despite the team also asking him to allow me to keep coaching them so they could better maintain their high-level performance. Now, supposedly he's going to be taking all the coaches, too, that he has. That's great. Who would have been on the sideline? Who's going to be on the sideline for this team? As everyone in their right mind would imagine, the statement didn't land particularly well. Those in sports media called out the victim framing, questioning whether his players actually wanted to stay after reports said he'd been hiding from them all morning. I was supposed to have a meeting with them at 9 o'clock, and he never showed up. Here's this one person, this guy, Brian Scott Rebay. I'm sure the team whose leadership council he hid from in his office this morning was definitely begging for him to be allowed to continue to coach. Oof, that's not very nice. So Dave Portnoy, God. Dave Portnoy. That is one weird dude. This tweet is weak as F. Don't suddenly get serious. Don't say you prayed. Don't make it like you were the victim. Just post the below give and say, see ya in Death Valley. He's a weird guy, David Portnoy. From Jason McIntyre, if you'd like dumpster fire, strap in because this has enormous boom playoff in 2027 or bust. Fired in 28, given the mess at LSU and Lane's history. He likes to burn bridges. And that's basically what he is. Despite the team also asking him to allow me to keep coaching. To include that in there is a bad look, IMO, from Paola Getty. from Patrick Doherty. Has there ever been a less victimized person acting like they're the victims? LOL. Devin went 55-19 at Ole Miss and delivered the program's first playoff berth. He's leaving for one of college football's premier jobs with a massive raise. But instead of owning that decision, the statement positioned him as the guy who wanted to stay, but wasn't allowed to finish what he started. Playing the victim on your way to a $90 million payday doesn't tend to generate much sympathy. No, it doesn't. And the crazy thing is that, like I said, he's done this before where he's left, but not at this spectacular level, And boy, oh boy, the sort of insanity that you see. All right, now let me read you this article again from Off Announcing. This is Lane Kiffin explaining his decision to ESPN's Marty Smith. And it's funny, he was going to the plane, and there were fans at the airport, private plane he was going to, and they were booing and just heckling him like crazy. He's going to make his life a living hell when they have to go play Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin explains the LSU decision to ESPN's Marty Smith before leaving on plane. What drew this decision out so long? Well, let's find out, shall we? Now, again, please hit that subscribe button and hit the like button as well. Biggest story in college football this season finally reached a resolution on Sunday, with Lane Kiffin announcing that he's leaving Ole Miss to become head coach of the SEC rival LSU Tigers. Sports media were blasted Kiffin for his statement announcing the move, which he blamed Ole Miss athletic director Keith Carter for not letting him coach the Rebels to the college football playoff. Ole Miss entered Week 14 at number 6 in the college football playoff rankings and proceeded to blow out Mississippi State 38-18 in the Egg Bowl on Friday. Before Kiffin left Oxford on a plane for Baton Rouge on Sunday, he spoke with ESPN's Marty Smith about the decision, which Smith certainly thought Kiffin took long enough to make. Quote, "This was a very difficult and challenging day," Kiffin told Smith. "We went through a lot last night with Keith Carter, trying to figure out a way to make this college football playoff run work and be able to coach the team. At the end of the day, that's his decision. I totally respect that. I understand that decision. I just totally wish the team the best of luck. Wish that I was coaching, but I understand that it was a very difficult and challenging position for him and the chancellor to be in, and totally respect that. So I just really hope they can really play well and go win the national championship. But, hey, moron, you leave, and the reason they're in this position is because of you, because you coached them well." Smith asked Kiffin what drew this decision out so long. Quote, "It was really difficult," Kiffin responded. "This has been a really special place. 6 years here. I know that there's a lot of feelings and emotions right now around. I hope when they settle down that there's an appreciation of what we were able to do here and the best run that's ever been done in the history of the school and brought some exciting times. So I'm so appreciative to the people of Oxford and the relationships that I've developed here. And when I spoke at my dad's funeral, he moved 17 times, and I realized when all the people, I got all letters, calls, people showed up from around all those different spots, NC State, all the different spots he coached, and they said he was able to impact them and how much that meant to them. And so I really strive since that day to really try to impact people and help people through life, through my journey. So I just prayed a lot and made a family decision, hopefully get a chance to go impact a whole new set of people." Smith then asked Kiffin, "I understand you didn't attend the meeting on Sunday. Why not?" "Again, I totally respect Keith's decision," Kiffin began. So I guess he's kind of saying that Kiffin didn't want him there. Quote, "So that was his decision," Smith interjected. "Yeah," Kiffin said. "He asked me not to come to the meeting and said I couldn't come, which I totally understand. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. We're trying to find a way to make this work and coach the team and give the team the best chance to win, but he's got a job to do. And like he said, he has to live here. So, like he said, maybe all the national people understand why he should let me coach, but he has to live here. And it's a little different when you're the AD. So totally respect that. Keith has been amazing to us over the last 6 years. Now, I would mention earlier, he did say, that he blamed him for not being able to coach. So he's kind of conflicted, messages here. On the one hand, he supposedly respects what the AD is doing, but at the same time, he's complaining about the AD. Smith then asked, "Why was LSU the right choice for you?" Oh, it's funny you should ask. They offered him $90 million. Quote, "There was something. This was really hard. My heart was here. But I talked to some mentors, Coach Pete Carroll, Nick Saban. Especially Carroll said, your dad would tell me you to go. Take the shot. You've accomplished a lot here. I always hated how we only gave 1 year to Tennessee and left. I really hated that feeling of that. Even though it was an amazing and exciting year, I didn't think we gave a lot to this program and to this city. Some of the most historic wins in the stadium we've ever had. And best regular season in the history of the school. I feel proud of that. But it just became time. I talked to God, and he told me, take the money. And he told me it's time to take a new step. It's time to take new money, Lane Giffen. As Giffen made his way to the plane to depart for Baton Rouge, spectators in Oxford made their feelings known. They heckled him. Go to hell. You suck. Stuff like that. It was so loud you couldn't hear what they were saying, really. Well, this is one of the more bizarre stories you've seen in sports in a long time. And it's a bit of a drama. You wonder how this guy's going to do in LSU. That's a big college. I guess they haven't been good in a long time. But this is going to be some drama when he goes there, boy. And maybe this is his last stop. Maybe not. Maybe he wants to coach the NFL. Who knows? That's really the next stop. Make $90 million. What's the next stop? The NFL. So, thank you for watching this video. And of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 3. I'll see you later. Got a massive rumor for you when it comes to New York Mets. It seems that the Mets are in the mix to sign slugger Kyle Schwarber. Now, Kyle Schwarber hit 56 home runs for the Phillies last year. He's a top-tier power hitter in the game. Probably the third best power hitter in the game. Since the moment he walked on the field, he was one of the best hitters in the league when it comes to hitting that long ball. And the Mets are in on him. The Mets need a lot of help, as you know. They traded Brandon Nimmo, so they need that power back, especially if they lose Pete Alonso to free agency. Now, this rumor was put out by Jeff Passan, and he had a lot to say about the market. The Mets are in on a lot of players. I'm going to do a video later about it. So if you want to know what's going on, hit the subscribe button. You'll know everything that's going on with the Mets on YouTube and, of course, on Facebook. Thank you for watching. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. Hopefully you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. So we got a whole bunch of rumors for you that the Mets involved. All these different players come from the same place, Jeff Passan. But before we get into that video, again, let's go over real quickly about Francisco Lindor. I'm a Met fan like you. I want the Mets to win. That's all I care about. We don't need this bickering back and forth about the title of the video or the tone of the video. And I welcome everybody in here to come to watch the videos. A lot of people left over the last video. Well, I'm sorry, but when your team has a collapse like the Mets had, everything has to be scrutinized. Everything has to be examined. What happened? What happened in that clubhouse, it spoke volumes about what was going on, and it really hurt them later on in the season. So that's why I've been talking about this the last few videos, because I thought it was very important to talk about it, because we need to find out and make sure this never happens again. I'm tired of this. It's the third time in my life I've seen this happen with this franchise. We don't want to see it happen again. And if you don't examine every player and scrutinize every player that's involved in it, then it's going to happen again. If they don't do the right thing here, it will happen again. It has to stop. And I don't need people bickering with me and complaining to me about this or that. Saying I'm not much of a Met fan. Look, it's about the name on the front. not the name on the back. Simple as that. And I also would mention some of the things that have been said about some of the players a little over the line. Some of the things that have been said about Soto and Lindor, it's not personal with me. I don't know why they're making it personal with me and with the players. Either play well, they do well, or get him out of here. Simple as that. If Lindor can't carry it, let's got to find a way to move him. Same thing with Soto at some point in the future. I'm just putting it out there. Okay? 5 years of the Mets, spend a lot of money and haven't won anything. So that's why it's so important to figure out what happened this season. But now they're trying to move on to 2026. And here we have from Jeff Passan, the big MLB insider. He says the Mets are in the mix for Schwarber, which I did a video on him earlier, Framber Valdez, and Kyle Tucker. ESPN baseball reporter Jeff Passan warmed up the hot stove Monday and had the Mets involved in free agent rumors for Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber, Cody Bellinger, and Framber Valdez. He also has Jeff McNeil likely on the way out via trade. Well, we kind of knew that about McNeil. But this thing about Schwarber is something new, which is great to see. Passan says Schwarber, the 32-year-old DH, who had 56 homers and drove at 132, while finishing second in the MVP voting, might be the likeliest of the big free agents to sign first. The baseball winter meetings start in 6 days. They're saying that he might sign before or during the winter meetings. Unclear if something gets done before the winter meetings, but I'd be surprised if they end and he doesn't have a team. Passan wrote on Threads, the Phillies are the favorites to land Schwarber, but the Mets, Red Sox, Reds, and others remain involved. I've heard the Pirates, which I don't believe. Tucker, and this is unbelievable. I don't know if he's a Scott Boras player, but he may not sign until 2026. That's nonsense. You want to sign now. Sign before Christmas, dude. At the end of the day, nobody can make a team better than like Tucker. Whether it's Toronto, Philadelphia, either New York team, or perhaps one that misses out on the rest of the top players in the class, Tucker's price will be met, and he'll get a 10-year plus deal for more than $300 million, with an even higher ceiling possible. I'm gonna say this: he's good, but he's not Juan Soto. He's good, but he's not that good. He has won a lot, so the Yankees want to keep Bellinger, but Trent Grisham accepting the qualifying offer has complicated things. Well, why did these assholes in the Bronx offer it to him? They should just let him walk. According to the Passan, the Yankees have a logjam in the outfield. Mets, Dodgers, Phillies, and others may look to pry him out of the Bronx. Like Schwarber, he may be among the earliest. So that's good. I think we're gonna see some activity this week. I would hope. He also said Valdez, arguably the best pitcher and starter this offseason, is a fit for the Mets, and that a Tariq Skubal trade is looking exceedingly unlikely. Then Passan characterized a dozen players by their likeness to be traded. Now think about Framber Valdez. He's left-handed. He's 32 years old. He's won a lot. He is a true ace. He would certainly settle the Mets rotation down, and they need that. I would also mention they could use another starter after that, too, from outside, possibly through a trade or whatever. They probably won't go. This is the pitchers that aren't going to get traded. Freddie Peralta, Hunter Green, Byron Buxton, Stephen Kwan. Will they be traded? Ketel Marte, at the bar beware, Jaron Duran, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez. And where will they go? Brendan Donovan, Luis Robert Jr., Jeff McNeil, Nolan Arenado. I don't think Robert Jr. is going to get traded. Any team picking him up will be crazy to do so. I don't think the Mets will be in on him because they re-signed Tyrone Taylor. I did want to get somebody who's a little bit more with the Harrison Bader type. Regarding incumbent NL reliever of the year, Edwin Diaz, Passan notes that the 31-year-old will wind up with the heftiest deal of fellow back-end relievers, Aubrey Ritton, Robert Suarez, Pete Fairbanks, and Devin Williams. Another free agent Met Passan discusses a slugging first baseman Pete Alonso. And I get this, folks, about Pete. Get this. Pete had a career year and likely gone to the contract to back that up. Now, he's waiting for a team to step to the forefront. That's like last year. No team's going to give him a lot of years. They proved it last year. Any team could have gotten him for a good price, and he would have taken it. No team did that other than the Mets. If he thinks he's going to get a 7-year there, that's pie in the sky with diamonds and rubies. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. He better prepare himself to come back to the Mets, because that's probably what's going to wind up happening. So the Mets said they want him back, but to go back with some of these other guys, Framber Valdez has been mentioned. Hector Gomez mentioned him. Now we got a real credible guy mentioning Valdez with the Mets. Mets need a true ace to take pressure off of Nolan McLean, settle this rotation down to where you know this guy's going to go 6, 7, 8 innings. The fact that this group cannot go more than 4 innings was a problem, and it's part of the reason why they collapsed. Not the primary reason, but many, many reasons. Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, I kind of look at them in the same category. Athletic outfielder who has power, is good defensively. The only difference between the two of them is, where is Tucker going to play here? Tucker's been a right fielder. Is he going to play right field here? That means they'll move one starter to the left. And Bellinger can play all outfield positions, including center field, really well, and as well as first base. So he has a lot of versatility in terms of where he can play, unlike Tucker, who's just an outfielder. And Schwarber he's a apex home run hitter. He's at the top of that list. 56 home runs. He got over 300 home runs. He's got a very good chance of getting 500 home runs in his career. I didn't think the Mets would be in on him, but they're in the mix. So they bring him in here. He'll be the DH, I would think. Maybe once in a while play the outfield, but primarily be the DH here. So I guess he'd be a little bit of insurance in case the Mets lose Pete Alonso. And if they don't lose Pete at first, a little bit, and they can kind of share the DH spot a little bit here and there. But the one thing about Tucker, Schwarber, and Bellinger, and Framber Valdez, something that most of the Mets don't have in terms of just regular players and star players, all of these guys have won. They've all won a World Series, each one of them. Kyle Tucker with the Astros, Kyle Schwarber with the Cubs, Cody Bellinger with the Dodgers, and of course, Valdez with the Astros. It is extremely important to bring in guys that know what it takes to win. Okay? Very, very important to have players that can do that. And I think that's part of the reason why they brought in Semien too, is that he has won at the highest level. Because then it shows you guys are capable of doing it once before they could do it again, maybe somewhere else. So I'm happy with some of the names I've heard over the last week or so of who the Mets are talking to. I mean, really, since they traded Nimmo, they said they were going to open up, all these different possibilities for themselves, which is probably the smart thing. And I would agree, and you would agree with me, that Schwarber is a better, much, much better player than Brandon Nimmo. Bellinger is a better player than Brandon. He's won MVP. And, of course, Tucker's a much better player than Brandon. So if they can improve on that and hopefully improve the clubhouse dynamic to some degree, and then improve the pitching, that's going to go a long way. And again, I would sort of say that the pitching is the most important thing. You bring in Valdez, it calms down the rotation, then maybe you look to see if you can make a trade for another starter that is a guy that can give you multiple innings. And then from there on, you can figure out who the closer is and who's going to be playing first. And who's going to be who's going to be in that outfield. So, but the number one thing they have to do is figure out what bat they want in this offense. That's an improvement over Brandon Nimmo. All these three guys we mentioned here, Tucker, Schwarber, and Cody Bellinger, are all improvements over Brandon Nimmo. And I would say that Semien is an improvement over Jeff McNeil. So right off the bat, you're a much better team, but you have to figure out what you want to do with Pete. But you let me know what you think about this video. And of course, can't we all get along? Does he come in here and leave comments? Just don't fight with me, because I don't have the patience for it. And there's no reason to. It's not that important. This stuff's not that important. But thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut. And I'll see you later. Hi everybody, this is the Prospect Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, welcome back to the Prospect Hut. Hopefully you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to talk about the Mets and Steve Cohen. Seems like the Metropolitan Park project is a go. They got the gaming license. And I'm going to read you a little article. Metropolitan Park project gets gaming license recommendation. Well, he's been trying to get this for a few years now. Steve Cohen is going to build it. He hopes they will come. On Monday, the New York State Gaming Facility Location Board met at the Proansky Auditorium at CUNY Graduate Center in Midtown Manhattan to vote on what would be granted gambling licenses. The board recommended a gaming license for the Cohen and Hard Rock International $8 billion Metropolitan Park project. The board also voted to recommend issuing gaming licenses for the Bally's and Resorts World Project. Well, that's good. That's in Jamaica. All three projects now have to go through the formality of a character and fitness test before it official. The final step before each project officially receives the license would be the project to pay the $500 million license fee. It will be built on 50 acres of asphalt parking lots next to Citi Field. A casino will anchor the development. According to the executive summary submitted to the board, construction will start in January 2026 and is estimated to take 4 years, with the target open date coming in June of 2030. Wow, that's a long time. The project will include a Hard Rock hotel, a live entertainment venue, restaurants, a convention center, a retail space. One of the biggest questions Mets fans has been regarding parking. Have no fear. There will be 3 multi-story parking garages, including one each on other side of the stadium. Because there is no tiered parking. It's just all asphalt, street level. Backed by billions in private investment from New York Mets owner Steve Cohen and Hard Rock International, the shovel-ready proposal will create tens of thousands of union jobs, billions in tax revenue, unprecedented community engagement with significant minority ownership, according to the executive summary. Also, Metropolitan Park will be a taste of Queens Food Hall, about 20 local food vendors. There will be 25 acres of new public park space, including athletic fields, playgrounds, and improvements to the local train station. Affordable housing units will be built in Corona, and annual grants will be awarded to Queens-based nonprofits focused on education, job development, and culture. The developers called it a generational opportunity to create the most inclusive, community-forward, and impactful destination deeply rooted in Queens. The casino will include 5,000 slot machines, 375 live dealer tables, 30 poker tables, and an 18,381 square foot sports book and bar. The hotel will have 1,000 luxury rooms, including 393 luxury suites. The live theater will have a capacity of 5,650 people. The project will create 17,100 direct construction jobs, 25,000 induced and indirect construction jobs, over 6,000 direct permanent jobs with 2,000 part-time jobs, and 13,500 indirect and induced permanent jobs, according to the summary. Once up and running, the resort is estimated to generate $33.5 billion in new tax revenue over 30 years and $5.6 billion annually in economic impact. Steve Cohen, who's 69, bought the Mets for $2.4 billion in 2020, and the project has been in the works for 4 years. Community input was gathered at 16 workshops attended by a combined 1,800 residents. A community advisory council approved the plan with a 6-0 vote in September. Quote, "It's time New York got the sports and entertainment park it deserves," Cohen noted. Quote, "When I bought this team, fans and the community kept saying we need to do better. Metropolitan Park delivers on the promise of a shared space that will not only want to come to and enjoy, I could be truly proud of. I don't know if being proud of a casino is something to be proud of, but all the other amenities that they'll have, you would hope it'll be family friendly. It'll be a place to go to. You know, a lot of this stuff will be, across the street. They've already begun some construction for some facilities across the street from Citi Field. But a lot of this project has a lot to do with the outside of the property that involves Citi Field, like the parking lot in particular. That's where the Metropolitan Park is going to be, and that's why they're going to build these tiered parking lots. I'm surprised we haven't had that there, but we'll see how it looks. I mean, the one thing I'll say is it can't be any worse than what we had there, because what we had there was a junkyard. We had Old Shea Stadium there. It was a junkyard. A lot of weird businesses, a lot of automotive businesses and mechanics there, and just it was just a mess. And for a long time, the mafia was there, and that was a bone of contention way back at the Giuliani administration. He tried very hard to push them out, and eventually he did. Eventually, all these politicians, I can't get into it. They're the biggest criminals in the world. Politicians, they'll push any real life criminal out anywhere. That's how it is. But this is exciting because it's something new. We'll see how it is for the community overall, if it improves things. Because it's a very quiet area, to be honest with you. It's fairly safe there. But when you bring in the casinos, you do bring in that criminal element. So that's a little, we'll see how that sort of transpires. But thank you for watching this video. And of course, please subscribe to the Prospect Hut, and I'll see you later. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to another visit to the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
Now, welcome back to the Baseball Hut 3, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. Now, if you're new to this channel, I have other channels. Obviously, this is the third version of it. I've done other videos on WFAN and the insanity that goes on there. Usually the crazy stuff they talk about. But keep in mind, this is a radio station. And radio stations and radio people, they are cutthroat. And they will get rid of everybody that's in their way just so they can get a little piece of airtime. And that has happened at WFAN. Now, I have WFAN pegged for a long time. I've been doing videos on them for 5 years, but in particular the last 2.5 years. I have the Baseball Hut 2, which has a whole playlist. I'll put the link into the channel, and you can see all the playlists of all these videos I've done on WFAN about the New York Mets, their attitude. I have so many channels. I also have the Football Hut, which is a Giants-centric channel. It's a complete disaster, just like the New York Giants. But I have plenty of videos on there, how rude they are there. And really the focus of the videos have been on Brandon Tierney and Sal Licata, who I have nicknames for. Most of these guys have nicknames. They're all pretty amusing. I think they're pretty accurate. Sal Licata is Spaz Licata. And of course, Brandon Tierney's the Coconut Head. But I feel bad for them greatly. Now, I would mention I'll have other videos on Baseball Hut 2 about Keith Hernandez at WFAN saying something crazy about the Mets. And then I have the Football Hut, which I'll talk about one of the employees called Banks, talking about Abdul Carter, one of the players for the Giants. But I feel bad today for Brandon Tierney and Sal Licata because they basically lost their job. I feel bad for them. I don't know what's going to happen to both of them. I sort of made fun of them back in the summer, saying that at least one of them was in trouble. But now it seems like both of them are in trouble in terms of losing their job. They're not going to be in the mid-morning anymore. That was a fairly successful show. I don't know what the ratings were for the show. It's a very strange time slot. It's not in the morning. It's not the afternoon. So you're always vulnerable to getting cut. And Sal Licata in particular was not. He was the low man on the totem pole. I thought he was going to be in trouble, but it turns out Brandon Tierney's also going with them. I would ask and mention a couple of things. First of all, they have an opening with the night show because there's no night host now because Keith McPherson cut and run and quit that show for whatever reason. Nobody knows the true reason why he left last week. So he's not there anymore. So they have an opening. But obviously, with Salicata in particular, he might not be able to do it because he has his show on SNY where he talks to all these purple-haired freaks there, and they all sort of pat him. I feel bad for him because they all sort of talk down to him on that network, and now I've made quite a bit of light on him for the last 2 years, but I feel really, really bad. I mean, I really do. Now, I would mention I'll share this video with the Baseball Hut and the Baseball Hut too, so people can come and watch. But we have Craig Carton, who is the former, and now is going to be the new afternoon show again. This is a guy that's got more 9 lives than a cat. But this is radio. They don't care. As long as you don't murder somebody, even if you're in jail, they'll bring you back if you get some ratings. Now I would mention if Craig Carton starts doing goofy shit, your host is going to really, laugh at it. I mean, talk about it. But here we have him awful announcing. Now, I'd mentioned, I get to the video. All right. Headline, Craig Carton reportedly returns to WFAN afternoon drive. Craig Carton is finalizing the deal to become the station's afternoon drive host beginning next year. What? Now, not only does this affect the midday show, but also the current afternoon show of Evan Roberts and Tiki Barber. When Craig Carton lost his FS1 show, there was immediate speculation about whether he will return to WFAN, and that speculation is reportedly coming to fruition. According to Andrew Marchand at The Athletic, Carton is finalizing the deal to become the station's afternoon drive host beginning next year. Carton's third tenure with WFAN is expected to push current afternoon drive host Evan Roberts and Tiki Barber. A little typo. It's Tiki Roberts. I didn't know Evan and Tiki were married. I thought that was more the morning show. To middays. Additionally, current midday hosts Brandon Tierney and Salicata are expected to be cut. You're cut, and you're cut from WFAN's weekday lineup, according to Marchand. Tierney and Licata were on WFAN when Marchand broke the news. So obviously they weren't told. I don't know if they were told. They probably weren't told. But this is how disruptive, and I talked about this back a few months ago during the summer when Carton lost his Fox show, was that he was going to stab somebody in the back. I thought he was going to stab somebody in the back. He turned out to stab 2 people in the back. He stabbed Salicata and Brandon Tierney. Now, I will have other videos on this whole situation just to give you a rundown back in July when all this stuff happened. And of course, Sal tried to be a tough guy, but I don't think he's tough. I don't think he's feeling too tough today. I really hope he lands on his feet. I don't know. The reported lineup changes come after Licata said he wasn't worried about the prospect of Carton returning to WFAN several months ago, adding, "You're not taking my spot." Less than 6 months later, Carton appears to be taking not only his spot, but Tierney's spot. And not only that, Evan Roberts and Tiki Barber. It's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and fuck you. This is great. I wonder if they stab people in the back. When you talk about stabbing people in the back, he was in prison, Craig Carton was in prison, I guess for fraud. And I wonder if he used a shiv to stab them all in the back. 4 holes and 4 backs. Carton's return to WFAN 5 years ago was considered a successful one, rebuilding the station's afternoon time slot into a ratings winner with Evan Roberts, but Craig Carton opted to leave WFAN to focus on his FS1 show. And after several versions of Carton in mornings on FS1 were unable to gain traction, he was part of sweeping lineup cuts at the network last summer. So basically, Fox told him, get the fuck out of here. Take your microphone and get lost. Since losing his Fox show, the former and seemingly future WFAN host has been working on a daily podcast with Tyrone Johnson. Who? Exactly. The Craig Carton Show through Fox Sports and Red Seed Ventures. Carton recently shared metrics and said the show's growth was beyond anything. It was so beyond anything. He said, I'm going to go back to the fan. But regardless of how well his daily podcast was doing, Carton was always going to be interested in returning to his radio roots if WFAN came with an offer. The interest was expected to be mutual, with Odyssey executive Chris Olivero still at the helm. Olivero was instrumental in bringing Carton back to WFAN when he was released from prison 5 years ago. The hurdle with Carton remaining to WFAN this time appeared to be the lack of an opening. Not a problem. And unfortunately for Tierney and Licata, they will reportedly be WFAN's path to making an opening for him. Oh, isn't that great? So, in other words, Tierney and Licata are in the shower. And, of course, Carton found his opening, or openings, as it turned out. Let me tell you something. There's going to be a lot of jail jokes with this guy. A lot of prison jokes. WFAN won't seek to pair Craig Carton with Roberts again this time around. With Marchand reporting current overnight host Chris McMonagle, a.k.a. the Psycho Killer. You see pictures of him. He looks like an axe murderer. All in Fun is the leading candidate to join the new afternoon show. McMonagle was a producer for WFAN's Mike Francesa, Carton and Roberts before getting the overnight gig. Boy, Carton now, he went from Boomer Esiason to Evan Robertson now to the Psycho Killer. Boy, oh boy. But again, I was going through Social Blade, which is a site that, that you're able to, follow different accounts online, different YouTube channels, Twitter accounts, and it just gives you an idea where the audience is. WFN has 93,000 subscribers on YouTube. Okay, as far as I remember, they had about 50 a few months ago. So they've been simulcasting that morning show, that mid-morning show with Licata and Tierney for a few months. They also post all kinds of different short videos of about a minute or less, or a little more than that. So all the sort of work that Licata and Tierney have done to help build their social media account on YouTube, and this is how they treat them. Just, it's disgusting, but that's the radio. That's the radio business, folks. People can come in and they'll stab you in the back. I said Craig Carton was gonna use a shiv. You know what a shiv is? That's something you make in the jails, the prisons. It's a knife. So he basically shivved them in the shower. 4 people in the shower. And I wonder what the fate of the SNY show is of Evan and Tiki. Well, no problem there. Craig Carton will have the Psycho Killer hour, 2 hours before the Met game. Well, isn't that great? That's probably the next thing that's going to be another domino to fall. But this is the insanity you get at a radio station that is insane. I mean, you got insane people running it. You got George Soros, who's their boss of all people. This guy should be in a prison. And meanwhile, you got, speaking of which, Craig Carton coming back from the prison, for the fraud and the gambling and everything else. But don't worry, he's going to put on a great show. And this is another visit to the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So I am so excited because there's so much stuff to talk about, particularly with WFAN. I'm chomping at the bit. I already did a video for the Baseball Hut 3. I'll put the link into the description of this video, not only for the channel, but for the video, talking about all the big news that happened at the Fan today, and how Craig Carton has come back, and he's basically stabbed 4 people in the back to get his job back in the afternoon drive. Also, I'm going to do a video, which I haven't done yet, on football legend, Giants legend, called Banks. He's went after one of the Giant players, up to Carter. I have that for the Football Hut. I'll put the link in here for that. But this is the baseball head too. We talk about Mets stuff and baseball stuff really, and the media here, just baseball media, and because it does so well. All those videos do really well. One of the great Mets of all time is Keith Hernandez. We all love Keith. He should be a Hall of Famer. Why he's not is disgusting. And he's a great broadcaster. But he did an appearance at WFAN last week on Thanksgiving with his friend. Didn't know he was friends with him, Richard Neer, one of the most boring guys on the radio ever. And Keith was on the radio with him for 2 hours. I guess Neer is like his neighbor now. I think that Neer probably helped him move. I guess part of the thing was to do a show with him to pay back. This is like a Seinfeld sketch. And then Keith went on. I guess it was pretty pleasant, but he did kind of complain that he doesn't get a chance to sit in. Well, let's get into the video. So this is from Off Announcing. They do such a great job with some of the stuff they put out there. I mean, it's a left-wing site, but they do a great job in terms of following all the stuff that happens with the broadcasts, all over the place, all over the country. It's terrific. I'll give them credit on that. Headline, Keith Hernandez claims Mets refuse to let him attend analytics meetings. Quote, I wanted to go down and sit in a session, see what they do in preparation. It's never going to happen. End quote from Keith. Now, Keith, like I said, he was on the radio on Thursday. Having an all-time great defensive first baseman in your broadcast booth might seem like an asset, but the New York Mets have no interest in picking Keith Hernandez's brain. Hernandez spent 2 hours co-hosting WFN's morning show alongside Richard Neer on Thanksgiving Day last week. Predictably, Hernandez has been known analytics several times during the show. Well, that's Keith for you, claiming the trend in baseball is causing players to lose the ability to think for themselves. But that doesn't mean Hernandez is interested in learning more about why the Mets and other Major League Baseball teams are so reliant on analytics. Really, analytics, just the numbers of what the percentages of a guy hitting the ball this way and that way, and that's what it really is. Well, they won't let me down there, Hernandez said, the Mets analytics department. It's like the crown jewels down there. I wanted to go down and sit in a session and see what they do in preparations. It's never going to happen, end quote. Hernandez was also asked about some of Pete Alonso's defensive woes and whether the Mets or any players have ever asked him for tutelage, considering he was one of the best defensive players in MLB history. Well, he's the greatest first baseman of all time, defensively. But Hernandez made it clear the Mets have shown no interest in asking him for any help on the field. The last person to ask me to come help was when Todd Zeile moved to first base, Hernandez says. It was Bobby Valentine. Hernandez worked with Zeile as he transitioned to first base for the Mets during spring training more than a quarter century ago. And despite seemingly still having a good relationship with the organization, as a beloved TV analyst and member of the Mets Hall of Fame, the team doesn't seem interested in getting any additional help from Hernandez. Now, I would point out that Bobby Valentine was a coach on the 84 Mets and on the 85 Mets, and I think on the 83 Mets. And he played against Keith in the majors. So he knew Keith as a peer, and he knew Keith as a coach. So, back when, and he also had Keith work with John Olerud, the first baseman that's had before Zeile showed up. And that was really the knowledge that Keith imparted to Todd Zeile and John Olerud was enormous, because Zeile had never played first base until the Mets signed him, and they signed him as a first baseman, and he never played first, and Keith helped him adjust to that position. He also was very helpful with John Olerud, but John Olerud was a good first baseman anyway, but that really helped them, both of them, to become very good first basemen. I mean, Zeile was serviceable, I would mention. Hernandez clearly has a lot of knowledge as a hitter and especially as a defender, but it shouldn't seem too surprising to learn the Mets won't ask him to step out of the booth to assist in training or help a player, because doing so could be seen as undermining the coaches who are in place. As to why the Mets might refuse Hernandez the opportunity to learn more about analytics, that's a strange one. Are the Mets afraid Hernandez might bash analytics even more from the broadcast booth after sitting in on a meeting? Did Hernandez just knock on the door, ask to enter an analytics meeting, and get told, "Not now, Keith"? Who knows? That is a strange complaint. That is a strange complaint. But if his intentions are genuine and Hernandez has really seen requests to learn more about the Mets analytics department repeatedly ignored, that seems like a miss on their part. This isn't an announcer or first-year analyst trying to bust down the door of the analytics department. This is Keith Hernandez, who's been around the Mets for more than 4 decades. It remains to be seen whether Hernandez will have anything to say about analytics next season. He's in his contract with SNY recently expired. He's going to be back. He'll get a 3-year deal. He's going to be back. I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen. But I don't know why the Mets wouldn't want him part of the analytics. I mean, just have him sit and watch. For 10 minutes. All right, Keith, goodbye. Have Keith come in for a few minutes just to see what they're talking about. Or have them talk about it in spring training. I don't know. It's a strange one. I think we all know, if you followed the Mets for a long time, Keith was probably the smartest player the Mets ever had. Really, to be honest with you. He was probably the smartest player the Mets had, and he was certainly the smartest player in the 86 club. He was probably the best player the Mets had those years. Darryl Strawberry has repeatedly said that Keith was the best player he ever played with. And I think that's interesting because he played with guys like Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams and quite a few players. And he played with Barry Bonds for a time. So, and he played with Mike Piazza. Did he? No, he didn't play with Mike. I'm all right. A little before Mike. But he played with a lot of great players, and he said Keith was the best player to play with. That's why it's very annoying that Keith is not in the Hall of Fame, based on the fact that he won 2 championships, was the best player on 2 teams. The power wasn't there. That's the only thing Keith doesn't have. But Keith did everything right. If you need a home run, he hit it out. But it's a very strange story. But this is what happens when you go on WFAN. A lot of weird shit happens. And like I said at the beginning of this video, there's so much happening at the radio station. I'll put the link in the description of this video about what happened with Craig Carton and him stabbing the back of all these other radio broadcasters. I'll put, if I have time, I'll put it on later, of the link that I have for the Football Hut and recorded, like I said. And of course, please watch this video, share this video, subscribe to this video, and I'll have more stuff on WFAN and really on all kinds of stuff on the media. I enjoy talking about it, and it's a lot of fun, to be honest, because nobody else does it. So I'll be able to sort of analyze and talk about it and laugh about it. It's good. So thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut too, and I'll see you later. WFAN has had a major shakeup. They've brought in Craig Carton. He's going to do the afternoon drive. He's going to start that in 2026. They have not announced it yet officially, but that's the word. And when he comes in, Evan Roberts and Tiki Barber are going to go to the mid-morning show. And that also means that as dominoes fall, Brandon Tierney and Sal Licata are going to be out. What that means for them at the radio station, that has to be determined as I do this video. But that's major, major radio news and in the sports media world. So if you want to know what's going on in the media, you want to know what's going on WFAN, hit the subscribe button. Hey everybody, this is the Football Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host of the Hut, and welcome back to the Football Hut. And hopefully you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. As you know, the Giants again lost again. The Patriots on Monday, and they're just a terrible team. Joe Shane is going to get fired. Mike Kafka, the interim coach, he's not going to make it. All the coaches are going to be gone because the problem is that this team does not play professionally, and this is an organizational problem. But looking at how poorly they played after they fired Brian Dable, they do not respect the new head coach, and it's shown. Abdul Carter has embarrassed himself. It didn't seem like he cares. I had my reservations when they drafted him on draft day. I'm gonna say what alerted me to it, but I was a little concerned. But obviously, he's had a terrible first season in the league. He needs, I guess, they're saying he needs to grow up, but I don't think he's gonna make it. I am not happy with the drafting of this particular general manager. Other than Jackson Dart, the rest of them are very shaky. I know people love Cam Scatterboo, but he is a effing weirdo. And it's the reason why he's hurt because he's a little unstable. And Jalen Hyatt, who turned into a complete bust at the professional level, was such a great player in the college level. But the problem is play time with these players and in this organization right now, and that's my take on it. But we have Carl Banks, the legendary New York Giant. He's also a radio analyst, guy that also is an employee of WFAN. He had a lot to say about Carter, and nobody's really disagreeing with it. This from awful announcing. Giants radio analyst Carl Banks rips Abdul Carter. It's time for the kid to grow up. I don't think he's going to grow up. You can't care about this more than the kids themselves. New York Giants were embarrassed on Monday Night Football in a 33-15 loss to the New England Patriots. For the second time over the last 3 games, the Giants bench rookie edge rusher Abdul Carter, who was selected by the Giants with the number 3 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Carter sat out the Giants' first 2 defensive drives on Monday night and didn't either end the game until New York trailed 17-0 in the second quarter. This guy is a disaster. And they're going to regret drafting him. Richie O'Leary of ON3 reported on Sunday that a benching was expected after Carter was late to a team meeting. And that's not the first time he's been late. These meetings. He's not taking this job seriously. And it is a job, quite frankly. But, like I said, players don't respect this interim guy because they know he's not going to be around. The first benching for the Giants' opening series in a 27-20 loss to the Green Bay Packers. Week 11 was reportedly due to Carter sleeping at the team facility during a walkthrough. That led to WFAN radio hosts shredding Carter. Well, I'm not going to get into that. WFAN is the home of the Giants. And on Monday night, it was the Giants radio analyst for WFAN that sounded off. Carl Banks expressed frustration and disappointment in Carter's behavior during Monday night's Giants-Patriots radio broadcast on WFAN. I mean, really, it's just not good, the situation. It's time for the kid to grow up. Banks, a former New York Giant himself and defensive player, one of the best players the Giants ever had. I don't advocate teammates fighting with each other, but it seems like if we're just finding this out now, this has got to have been a pattern going on all year. And that's losing football, Banks continued. That's a losing locker room. Ain't that the truth? When you have these types of things and you don't care enough to be engaged and you have to be disciplined twice, how many other times has this happened and they just kind of overlooked it? Well, obviously it's happened a lot. Giants radio play-by-play announcer Bob Papa responded. I would think that they probably have heard this most of the season. And the fact that it got to a point where they benched him. And, quote, and it's disappointing because I expect more from the young man, Banks said. And I, again, have been a big defender saying, oh, he'll be okay. But here's the thing, you can't care more about this stuff than the kids themselves. So he's got to grow up, shape up, and hopefully whatever happens at the end of the year. But next year he gets his head on straight and gets focused and has someone that can keep him accountable from day one. This is also where the head coach situation doesn't really help for locker room stability and players buying in. The Giants fired Brian Daboll on November 10th and are currently led by interim head coach Mike Kafka. Either way, sleeping through team events and being late to team events is inexcusable and won't go over well with teammates. That's true, especially when the production hasn't been there on the field. Carter, widely viewed as the top pass rushing prospect in the 2025 draft out of Penn State, has totaled 1.5 sacks over 13 games played this season for the 2-11 Giants. My goodness. It's a terrible season. This comes just a week after Banks unloaded on the Giants for a decision in the team's overtime loss to the Detroit Lions. Well, that's going for the 4th down, instead of kicking the field goal. Very suspicious, to be honest with you. The play at the end of that Lions-Giants game is very suspicious to a lot of people. But the Giants are a bad team, and this is what you get. But it's unusual as well to see a young player that's trying to establish himself having such a lousy attitude and not wanting to work and not wanting to show up. I don't know if he thinks that he's just has to show up and then play and not be part of the team. And I like I said, I saw some red flags the day he was drafted. So, I mean, I didn't know much about the player. And to be honest with you, he hasn't shown anything. The drafts of Joe Shane have been a disaster. Jalen Hyatt should have been a player that was an easy, productive move to make. And he's been a terrible player. And people calling for him to get released after a few years here with the Giants. And meanwhile, you got guys that are in his class, like Jahmyr Gibbs, who's just an incredible player for the Lions. And you see, the same age group, the same, draft class, and you see a player that's just off the charts great. It makes you scratch your head because Hyatt was a great player. Carter was a great player in college. But sometimes between the ears, they get into the league and they think they have to just sort of just get by. Physical ability and talent gets them by, and then they don't have to think they have to work. And they don't realize the guys on the other end, they're adults, they're men, and they're trying to beat you. I don't know what's going to happen in this situation. Usually I like to think I have the answers, but this I don't. I don't know what's going to happen in this situation. I do know one thing. General manager's going to get fired because he put this group together. They talked to this kid. I also would mention Jackson Dart. I don't know what the hell they told him during the week. But you can't take a risk when you're coming back from a concussion that took you out for 2 weeks. And then doing crazy stuff on the field, like that hit, that late hit. I thought that was a dirty hit. In my opinion. But you got to be a lot smarter than that when you're the Giants' future quarterback and current quarterback. You can't be taking risks like that. That's for sure. Well, you let me know what you think about this video, and of course, please subscribe to Football Hut, and I'll see you later.